I hate how compelling I find this game. For those unaware, this is Roguelite Deck Builder, a game whose name is deliberately messing with you. A roguelike deck builder is a run-based game where your actions are determined by the random draw of the cards from a deck. Though some games disguise the deck in clever ways, such as my beloved Dicey Dungeons, it'd be more accurate to say random draw of actions which you can choose, remove, and edit in various ways. Slay the Spire is a premier example of this genre, and after it blew up, roguelike deck builders flooded the space. Now they're a dime a dozen. They're hard to avoid, and even some games that aren't deck builders at all can still be argued to have been influenced by Spire's design, like the Pick 3 roguelikes, which are popular right now. In this game, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's a deck builder, as in building a deck, and the light has a habit of burning out randomly, so it's a rogue light. That's the beginning and end of this joke. And yet, I was drawn in by what this game actually is. An idle game, sometimes called incremental games by fans of the genre, since idle games have a bias associated with them. And I must admit, I am among the opponents of incremental games. I strongly dislike the verbs of this genre, though I do find their ideas interesting on paper. Video games are the masters of operant conditioning. They put you in a simulation and tell you what to care about within this framework. Is there any inherent value in gaining these points? Training my sense of timing to parry fools? Maybe my hand-eye coordination is better, but that doesn't mean I can go out and play soccer with the best of them. In fact, I don't think I could do any sport very well. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is the reason why we care about the goals of this game, whether video games or a real one, are because the game told us they matter, and we accept that answer so we can have fun. They give us new frameworks of agency that we act within, a new form of right or wrong, and in participating in the game, we buy into the idea that these points do matter, even though we all know they really don't. At least not for most people. Televised sports, whether traditional or esports, make that a little more complicated, but we're not esports athletes, are we? Let's focus on us normies for a bit here. Now, some games put in a lot of effort into distracting you from the active goal of the simulation. Introducing story elements to distract from the mechanical layer, provide no stated goal, instead asking you to come up with your own fun, or actively hiding more gamey elements from the player so that they don't feel pressured to adhere to whatever the goal of the simulation is. It just didn't tell you at first because it didn't want to. Oftentimes these games do this because it's actually kind of hard to get people into certain genres, so they will hide these sorts of things from you so you can get comfortable before you start going for a high score or whatnot. By now, you could probably tell that game designers have put a lot of thought into hiding or layering other elements on top of the goals of the simulation to make the game more than just an arcade beat-em-up. But incremental games are, by their nature, the opposite. They are proud to put the goal front and center and tell you that the only joy in this universe is in pursuing this goal. Sometimes these games have endings, but more often than not, it's an infinite goal, such as with the most famous incremental game, Cookie Clicker. Click the cookie to get more cookies. The goal is to have as many cookies as possible in the fiction of the game to be the biggest cookie salesman in the world, but that's not fronted to the player. The cookie is. Click the cookie. If you play the game long enough, the goal morphs from have a lot of cookies to gather cookies as fast as possible. Acceleration over distance. What's the most efficient method to gather these cookies? Refining your run so you gain cookies faster and faster still. This is all compelling in a game design sense, but I tend to dislike them because they can be very idle. By design, Cookie Clicker quickly leaves the realm of the physically clicking on the cookie, which is perhaps the most bare-bones gameplay you could ever possibly have, and becomes something you do in the background. Watching the number go up, buying upgrades to increase cookie throughput, marvel at your cookie churning machine, and sit back and enjoy the show. Extremely hands-off, which isn't really what I'm looking for in my video games. Which is where Roguelite Deck Builder returns to the conversation. Far from a traditional idle game, Roguelite Deck Builder has two goals. The first should be self-evident, build a deck. The second is to accrue $1 million so you can beat the game. Each hammered nail earns you a bit of cash. Money can be spent after every completed deck to upgrade various properties. The hammer, the nails, the boards, make that goddamn light stop flashing, and of course, the bugs. Bugs are like this game's crit system. Smushing one to your hammer nets you way more money than any one nail, but that assumes you're in position to squash it. Each board gets one bug spawn, and it needs to walk where you're hammering in if you want to get your crunch on. But once you've chosen to hammer this nail in, you can't back out, so if you commit too fast, the bug may get away in only moments and you're caught with your nail in your hands. High reward, but very inconsistent. There's also the chance for random board and nail types which change up the gameplay a bit, but overall the gameplay is this. Swing your mouse in rhythm to get the perfect smack on that nail. There's a drag to the hammer that gives it a surprising sense of buoyancy and weight, like you're swinging a hammer that's strapped to the end of a pool noodle. The control scheme is floppy and odd, but mesmerizing. Upon first finishing Roguelite Deck Builder, I immediately deleted the game and then started re-downloading it 15 seconds later. Humans enjoy when numbers go up. That's the monkey brain appeal at the heart of incremental games, and despite my earlier complaining, I am no less monkey than the rest of you. I will be pulled into the exponential growth simulator. I just don't like how raw it is. It's just clicking on things, and eventually even that goes away, as I've already said. I'm repeating myself. What Deck Builder does is it takes that idea and divorces it from the numbers. The very act of hammering in this nail gets easier over time. Or am I getting better? I know the window for perfection is widening with each upgrade, but am I also just improving? Quick tangent, have you ever worked a job somewhere where you were asked to complete some assembly line task? In college, I had to cut up cantaloupes and put them in these bins for a food court. 20 cantaloupes total, some amount of bins. And at first it was slow going. It took a while to ensure I was doing everything correctly, cleanly, cutting it in half, scooping out the seeds, cutting it into strips from there, and then chopping into bite-sized pieces. But after doing that for an hour or more, you naturally become more efficient. It's a pleasant sensation, noticeably improving at a task like that. It's a bite-sized chunk of what it feels like to improve at a skill. Like the ultimate goal of exercising or learning an instrument, take that proficiency, gained over thousands of hours, and place that inside of a 2-hour span of time. That's a good feeling. And that is the sensation this game most strongly provokes. And the incremental mechanics make this feeling even more potent. Am I improving? Am I hitting the window? Have I mastered the feel of the swing? Or are the game's incrementals doing the heavy lifting? The only way for me to check is to immediately start another run. Deck Builder fits in that perfect space of concentration, where it doesn't take up too much of your brain space, but you also can't just zone out. I found it's perfect for dorking around in the background while talking among friends, something that consumes your eyes, but not your mind. But there is something a little deeper down in roguelike Deck Builder if you want to really immerse yourself in the genre conventions. I've said this before, but I believe when used correctly, achievements can act as motivators towards certain behaviors from the player, kind of like a meta-level nudge on the developer's part on how they think you should experience their game. Most of roguelike Deck Builder's achievements are more incremental stuff, achievements you'd naturally get as you play the game, but this one is not. Getting to 1 million within a certain time threshold is no mean feat, and requires you to think about what upgrades you purchase to incentivize acceleration. Do you prioritize bug kills? Is it worth more to invest into nails or boards? I suspect increasing your perfection streak might be the actual method, but I haven't tried it yet. I probably will as B-roll for this video. Trying to chase this set of achievements has morphed my perception around this game's mechanic into a more tactical mindset. It's not about hammering in the nail anymore, it's about efficiency of movement, where to spend your money when, and to ignore the roguelite in favor of the stuff that nets you the most cash. While I don't think I'm a converted disciple to incremental games now, I understand the appeal in this context. Take the monkey brain pleasure of exponential growth and just naturally improving at a skill as you use it, and tie it to a mechanic that you are actively engaging with, and can improve your skills in, rather than a mindless task with a very narrow range of improvement. I guess what I'm really saying with this video is I don't like Cookie Clicker, and I'm not the first person to have ever said that. In some ways, Cookie Clicker being the flagship title of this genre has undeniably been a blessing, but also a curse. No game fits everybody, and it can be hard to get into a genre when the premier example of this type of game is very not to your taste. Like, I don't have another example, but when I think of like character action games where you're hitting stuff and you're trying to juggle a multiplier and whatnot, I immediately think of Devil May Cry. And imagine some person out there who doesn't like the aesthetics of Devil May Cry, right? If that is the game that pops into your head when you think about that genre, you may not know that there are games in that space that are for you. I'm actually having that right now. I know that the next game from Remedy, the Control sequel, is a character action game. And I'm like, oh, because I don't really like that genre. But maybe Control will get me into it in a way that Devil May Cry didn't. We shall see. But no group nor genre is a monolith. If anyone out there knows of some incremental games with a central mechanic that has more meat on the bones, like roguelike Deck Builder, please tell me in the comments. I'm not against giving more of these games a try. And also, the developer of roguelike Deck Builder recently released a new game called Goblin America, which is a movement shooter with vomit core aesthetics. I say Vomit Core because most people would just call it a Cruelty Squad-like, and that makes sense. I mean, look at it. But it's genuinely a completely different game. Where Cruelty Squad is barking up the old-school Tom Clancy-style tactical shooting tree, Goblin America emphasizes its movement and fast-paced shooty action that almost gives it a more Doom-like appeal, though this is very much its own thing. Check out this dev's work. Goblin America just came out, and it's barely crested 100 views as of writing, so it deserves more love for something so bursting with creativity. That's all from me though. Super quick video. I'm gonna try to get out more things more consistently, even if they're small like this. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you want to support me, or if you just enjoy the tone of my voice, then you can subscribe or contribute over on Patreon. Become a patron is what I think they would say. Either is helpful, but if you don't have money, or if you don't want to give me money, which is so fair, you know how hard it is to make money, subscribing is 100% effective. Number is currently in the 5 digits, which is impressive and amazing and scary and oh my god. But the bigger it gets, the more opportunities are available, and the more people who just naturally see it because of YouTube's algorithm stuff. So, subscribing is extremely helpful, and most people aren't subscribed, so that's nice. Is that really my pitch? So that's cool. You can tell I don't script these in advance. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you for watching again. I am Super Dude. See you in the next one, I hope. Thanks. Love you. Bye.